There are people who have no homes, and yet these people without homes are people of hope. On Austin Faith Dialogue, we're going to talk about those people and what they bring to you and to me and to our community. Please stay with us as we talk about refugees and resettlement on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Carl Gronberg, host for the program, and thank you for joining us. I mentioned at the top of the program that there are people, I understand there are around 21 million people throughout our world, who are without a homeland, and they're classified as being refugees. All is not hopeless. There are people like Jerome Cox, who's with me today, who is going to talk with us about what it means to be involved as people of compassion, to let those individuals know there's a home waiting for them. Jerome, welcome to our program. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
You are with Austin Metropolitan Ministries?
Austin Metropolitan Ministries Refugee Resettlement Program, which is one of the programs that AMM provides here in the Austin area.
Talk to me about refugees. You told me before we started the program there are 21 millions of people who are considered refugees?
21 million total worldwide, and that includes both displaced people, which means people that have been forced to leave their country of origin, and there are also internally displaced people, which currently is a very huge issue because those people are still living in their countries of origin in dangerous situations. And it's harder to protect those people because they still live in a country that offers no internal protection.
Why does one become classified as a refugee? You mentioned about people who might be rousted out of their home. Tell our viewing audience about that scenario.
I think most people probably became aware last year of a refugee situation with what happened in the Balkans, the former Yugoslavia. People at that time were forced to leave their country because of things that were going on there, ethnic cleansing, political strife. For refugees, that is the main criteria, that they leave their country because of danger of torture, imprisonment, their families being imprisoned because of their political views, civil war that puts them in danger. Once they cross the border, then they can seek refugee status through a U.S. embassy or a UNHCR office.
UNHCR?
Which is the UN arm that deals with refugees.
So a person then who is forced out of their homeland, crosses the border, then applies for refugee status. Why do we need to be concerned about people who are in the Balkans or people who are in Africa? What does that mean to people who are living in Austin, Texas, the good life that we enjoy here?
Right. I think it's important that we show concern for people of the world. That says something about who we are. If we look outside our own borders, we have so much here in the United States and even here in Austin. We are so blessed with so many things. When we start looking outside our borders, we find people like refugees who don't have the same blessings that we do for one reason or another, and usually not for their own reasons. These aren't people that want to leave their countries. They're not people that want to leave their homes. They're people like you and I that have worked hard to build a home, to build a career, to develop the land they live on so that they can provide for their families, and they've been forced to leave that. In many cases, they've lost family members and friends. Entire villages have been wiped out, and they may be one of the only survivors. In specific situations in Africa, people have been living for years in refugee camps. And these people are waiting for an opportunity to live their life. If you can imagine someone coming to your home and saying, you can't live there anymore, I'm going to live there, and if you don't leave, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill your family, then you're forced to leave that place and go somewhere and live, possibly in a tent if you're lucky, and your food is provided by an organization, a food relief organization.
Why is it they are so helpless, if you will? They can't defend themselves, they can't stand up against it. And what are some of the reasons that leads to, you mentioned ethnic cleansing, some of the other realities of this life we live in that leads people to become classified as refugees?
Civil war, political differences, ethnic differences.
How about religion?
Religious differences, certainly. And in some cases, that has gone on for years and years. And people that are refugees, they cannot protect themselves because they've lost everything. They've lost everything they've owned. They count completely on help from the rest of the world. And fortunately, in the United States, there are people that are willing to help them. In Austin,
only in the United States? Are there people in other places in the world? How many people is the United States taking in?
Well, the United States has a ceiling of around 80,000 people.
Out of 21 million around the world, 80,000?
Right. We don't take a large percentage, but we will take around that many people into the United States. In Austin, Austin Metropolitan Ministries is working to try to resettle around 200 people this year. We've currently resettled 100 people. Part of that is the processing. How a refugee gets to the United States is a very long and complicated process.
Talk about, what is that process? How does one, here they come, they apply for refugee status. Then if they say they would like to come to the United States, what is that process? They just don't come. There has to be some kind of a vehicle by which they are able to come.
Well, the process for refugees comes through the Department of State, and there's an arm of the Department of State called the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Refugees don't choose where they go. They're put into a huge pool called the Refugee Data Center. And
where is that pool?
That is in New York. And if they have family members or friends in this area, then that would certainly make it more likely that they would end up here. If they don't, they're what's called a free case, which means they could go anywhere, and they could go anywhere in the world that takes refugees. And so it's a hit and miss.
Jerome, have you ever been to Ellis Island?
I've never been to Ellis Island.
I have taken my family to Ellis Island. And there you deal with the immigrants, those people like my grandparents and people who came to this country. But they were immigrants, and there's a difference between immigrants, as hard as it was for them. And when you read some of the stories about what they went through, and the refugee, are you able to delineate and see in your own mind what would be the difference between those who came to this country as immigrants and those who come as refugees? In
my own mind, the difference is immigrants really, their intention is to come to the United States because of the opportunities here. In many cases, refugees, they don't want to leave where they are.
Right.
I mean, that's the bottom line. They have good lives. They're hard workers. They're diligent people, hopeful people where they are. Unfortunately, they've been forced to move.
Right. You've been involved in this for how long?
For one year.
1 year. And what have you experienced personally in that 1 year?
Oh.
Besides being exhausted. Yeah? That's a lot of work.
Well, I've experienced many things. We've had so many interesting people come to the United States. Stories that are tragic and exciting. We've had families come and with significant medical problems that had to be addressed right away. We've had people come who got scholarships to universities around the country.
Refugees receive scholarships?
Refugees.
Oh.
Because of work that they've done in their own countries to try to solve the problems going on there, they have been recognized as significant humanitarians in certain areas.
Right.
So it's very interesting. The people are beautiful people from all over the world, and they certainly add a great deal to the Austin community.
And to your life also?
And especially to my life.
How many people work with you in the refugee resettlement?
Well, not enough.
Yeah. Would you like some more?
I'd love more. Unfortunately,
we
I
might
can't.
Get some for you.
I would love more. We have 4 full-time staff people at AMM that are directly working for resettlement. A gentleman, Arcangelo Mayan from the Sudan, Dita Dowdy from Kosovo, and Allison Anderson, who is an Austinite, so, and myself.
And you 4 then have gone through the process of, in the year 2000, already resettling 100 people.
Right.
And looking forward to resettling.
Hopefully another 100, but I don't know if we'll get there. But I'm hoping that we can get close. We're working hard.
As you look at what we're doing so far and what you've done in this year, what do you think? Do we get an A for the amount of work that's done through Austin Metropolitan Ministries? Where are you? Are you pleased? Are you dissatisfied?
I'm very pleased with what we've done. Certainly, as I mentioned before, we're understaffed and we're underfunded. We don't get a lot of money for this program. I work to try to find funding, new sources of funding, and we're always looking for that. I'd like to have 5 more staff people.
Is it federal government funding?
Part of it is federal government. That's not our only funding source. We have private funding, and of course the congregations of Austin have been wonderful. All the churches in Austin who help us immensely. We could not do it without them. The volunteers, people in those churches have given thousands of hours of volunteer time.
Well, that's what we want to talk about in the second part of the program. We want to visit with what we can invite people to do. Please stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue as we discuss how you can be involved in refugee resettlement. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm holding in my hand what people of Swedish background call a clog. When I was in Sweden visiting, I bought myself a pair of clogs, and they're very comfortable. And when Jerome Cox, who is with us from Austin Metropolitan Ministries Refugee Resettlement Program, sat down, I looked at his clog and said, "Hey, you must have some Swedish background." He said, "No way." But Jerome said, "They're just comfortable." And particularly in working with refugees, you find that it's good to wear a clog because you can slip out of them. Let's slip this back on there. Okay, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about going to the homes when they come to Austin. How do you find them? Apartments? You find them a house?
We start with apartments, of course, in Austin. Even apartments are very expensive now. Our goal is to help a refugee family become self-sufficient within 3 to 4 months. And we achieve that goal through a number of ways. primarily through the help of church congregations, if we can find churches to sponsor families.
What does it take if you're going to be a sponsor? Let me tell you our story. At the end of the Vietnam War, we were asked by our bishop in the Lutheran tradition to sponsor families. Now, I understand you told me that was really before the federal government got involved in 1980. Is that correct? This was in the 70s. And so we resettled families from
Many people did.
Cambodia, yeah, right. And we had a wonderful experience, and those people still live in our heart. That refugee experience was a powerful experience for me personally as pastor, but also for our community of faith. And we learned so much from their culture, and they gave us so much in terms of quality of life. And many of them went on and became very self-sufficient people. But we had to provide a house for them. We had to provide a place for them. So you need to find a place for them to live.
We find a place for them to live before they get to town. We pick them up at the airport.
That's exciting.
We hopefully greet them with someone who speaks their native language. In some cases, they do have some English capabilities. I have people on staff that can speak several different languages. I don't, but we take them to their apartment the first night and give them a little orientation and say we'll be back tomorrow. We do Social Security.
What a ministry. Wow, that's exciting.
We enroll their children in schools if that's appropriate, and we hit the ground running. We start ESL classes as quickly as possible. If we have a congregation that's involved, then they have a committee that works on ESL with the families. We
make sure that everybody knows ESL is
English as a second language.
And where's that offered these days?
Well, it's offered in several places. We offer our program through our volunteers. It's also offered, there are classes at Caritas, there are classes at ACC around town. There are many classes available, which is good because when they come to Austin, generally if it's a family of 4, which means it's parents with 2 children, the parents probably work split shifts, and so they have to go to ESL classes separately. And ideally we offer ESL in their home if we have volunteers to do that, and we do need volunteers constantly who are willing to offer that to families in the home, either during the day or in the evening time. And that's a wonderful program to be involved in because you get so much interaction with the families, and they'll cook meals for you, and it's just a really great thing to be involved in. And we were talking about my shoes. The reason I have these shoes that slip off is because last year when we took a lot of Bosnians and Kosovans visiting their homes, when you go to their homes, everyone's shoes are out on the doorstep, and they don't like for you to wear your shoes in the house. And I kept having to take my shoes off and tie them and put them back on. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to get some shoes that slip off. So.
And the Swedes have such a shoe.
That's right.
The clog. What is it like for your experience? When they come over here, there's got to be a great deal of apprehension, fear, wonderment, being baffled by this society, this culture. What are some of the first reactions of some of those refugees?
They're very, of course, they're very excited. They're very exhausted, Carl. In some cases, the flights that they come to the United States on are generally the discounted flights, and they miss, they miss flights, and sometimes they've been traveling for 48 hours. So with children, so they get off the flight and they're just completely exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't hardly stand, and. But the next morning after they've slept and they come into the office, we pick them up and we bring them into the office. They're so excited. They have so many questions. They want to go to work right away. They want to start learning English right away. They want to know where school is. They want to get going.
Do they want to become a part of the community, or are they looking for their own folk to be a part of?
In a lot of cases, they look for their own communities that are established here in the area, because those people are going to be a big resource and help for them. And but they also, if a church congregation is involved, they're very they're excited to meet people and learn American culture and how they best can integrate into what's going on here. But certainly they want to meet people from their own origin, learn the experiences of people who have been here already.
Hear their stories.
Right. This is very helpful for them. Things that I can't tell them, right, that these people can. It's very exciting in the first 30 days. It's nonstop, and hopefully they become employed quickly, and we try to find jobs for them that offer benefits and will help them with their family needs, so that they can become self-sufficient. And
if a congregation, Jerome, wants to be a part of this, how do they go about doing it?
well, they can certainly contact Austin Metropolitan Ministries and talk to me about it.
Jerome Cox?
Jerome Cox, or Dita Doughty, who is our actual sponsorship developer, if you will. She works with many congregations around Austin, and probably people who are watching the show will know her name. She's a force to be reckoned with. I think you know her.
I have met her.
And they can contact us and certainly get the ball rolling. We need congregations. I don't want to say desperately, but I will. We do need people to help us help people in the Austin area.
Of the 100 that you've settled, resettled this year, congregations have been involved in all 100 of those?
No, not at all. Recently we've had a lot of single cases, single people coming over. And in that case, we don't need as much help in terms of volunteers. It's when we get a family of 4, 5, and even 6, we definitely need a congregation involved. And I think last year we worked with 24 churches, and this year we're hoping to work with at least that many. And we are we're wanting to bring more people in every year. It's a wonderful experience for the church.
It's a commitment, though, isn't
it? It's a big commitment. It's a commitment financially. It costs a congregation probably between $2,500 and $4,000 in financial commitment to help a family become resettled fully. And you need a volunteer pool of between 10 and 20 people probably to make it effective. And you need a coordinator that's willing to take the coordinator position. And then that person will work in conjunction with us. We will provide a lot of support services, the staff, as much as we can, and certainly be there to help with specific situations, especially if there's a medical concern. One of our big issues is, of course, mental health. A lot of refugees have suffered very tragic situations, and we are, this year, AMM is involved with a new mental health center that's going to open in Austin that will provide mental health services to immigrants and refugees, called the Sunrise Center. And we're going to be involved in that.
You're really caring for the total person. You're looking after their physical needs, but also their emotional and their work needs. What about some of the people who you're looking towards? You told me a story about Sudanese youth. Tell our viewing audience about them.
Well, we'll be working with a population of young adults who have been living in a refugee camp in Kenya called Khartoum.
But they are Sudanese.
They're Sudanese.
And that's located where?
In Kenya.
Okay.
The refugee camp is.
But the Sudan is located in Africa.
In Africa, I'm sorry, yes.
And then they have gone across the border into Kenya.
Yes.
All right.
These kids have lived in a refugee camp, some of them for as long as 10 years. With that, they're orphans.
You said they're young adults. So
they're young adults now. Some of they'll be between 17 and 24, I think, is the population age. And they will come over here. They've been living in pod groups in the refugee camp.
What's that mean, pod groups?
Well, like 6 to 10 of them live together just as for protection and for support. And they'll come over to the United States in groups of 4 to 6, and they're scheduled to be resettled at the beginning of next year, 2001. And we've agreed to resettle around 30 or 40 of those kids here in the Austin area. So It's going to be a very special population. They're very excited. They know they're coming here. They're very excited about coming
They
to
know
the
about
United
Austin,
States.
Texas?
Well, I don't know if they know about Austin particularly, but they do know about the United States. And they have been working already on their English language skills. And I think it's going to be a very exciting program. And we're looking for special people to work with that group.
You know, I'd like us to do that. I'd like the congregation I serve to be a part of that. That's very exciting to me. I think the refugee program is one of those very meaningful experiences that a community of faith can have. What do you think they bring to us? They bring their needs, okay? We all have needs. So they bring their needs, but they bring something else. These refugees that are being resettled, what do they bring to Austin and to the faith community?
Well, I think that you probably nailed it earlier. They bring hope, and they bring diversity. You know, I can't think of more beautiful people than people who've been through tragic situations and have overcome them and are looking ahead to the life that they have now. They're just joyous. Joy is what I think of when I think of them. You know, it's and Austin. I don't think you know, we could ask for anything better than that, to bring joyous, you know, happy people who, you know, are excited about being here into this community.
You told me you're a musician, that you played. Do they bring their music to you?
They do bring their music. Actually, we do have these have had celebration nights. We just had one recently out at a little branch in Dripping Springs, and a bunch of Albanians were there, and they had the music playing and the dancing, and it was just it was great. It went on and on.
What a party!
It was a big party.
That's great.
And they love to do that. They love to really celebrate life. You know, their culture is so different than our own. You know, we're generally all focused around work, and they're really focused around family and that part of their life.
And their identity and relationships.
Yeah,
I'm so glad, Jerome, you've come to Austin Faith Dialogue. Thank you, and thanks for your work in Austin Metropolitan Ministries. And do know that we who are a part of this community support you and what you do.
Well, thanks.
And you have sung a beautiful song for us and invited us to participate. And that participation invitation goes for all of you in our Austin Faith Dialogue viewing audience. And we hope that you will speak to your congregational communities, and that you'll say, this is something we can do to make a difference, and your life will be enriched. Indeed, we invite those who come with needs, and in that process, we grow and we are enriched. Peace be with you. Thanks for watching Austin Faith Dialogue.